Welcome to the LC3 Family Talk podcast, where we take a deeper look at everything from recent sermons to current events, all through a biblical lens. You'll love the guests and stories you'll hear on LC3 Family Talk, where our goal is connection, community, and relationship with God and with one another. And now, here's your host and one of our pastors, David Pritchard.
Well, hello there, LC3 family. Great to have you with us. We get to have a really fun talk today with a few dads. I'm looking forward to just chatting a little bit about dad because it's a topic that I love talking about in general, but the chance to get to do it with a few other dads is really special. So thanks for joining us. And what I'm going to do is I just love for these guys to just introduce themselves, tell a little bit about their family, and then also maybe a little bit about your connection to LC3.
Okay. Well, I'm Dave Weinz. I am married to Vicki, and next month we will be celebrating our 53rd wedding anniversary. We have two daughters. One of them, many LC3 members know, Julie Ayer, married to David Ayer, and their 8 children. They are currently missionaries in Tanzania. And our daughter Becky, who is a couple years younger than Julie, is married to Greg, and they have one daughter, just 3 years old, and they live in Everett.
Nice. All right. And how long have you guys been at LC3?
5.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, we moved down here to be by the Ayers, and they got called back to the mission field. So
Yep.
We're here, and we love it. We love it.
Nice. Hello, church family. For those I don't know, my name is Joe Avery. I've been coming to LC3 for about a year and a half regularly. Started a little over 3 years ago, but not consistently as I am now. I am recently divorced, and I have 4 kids, my 11-year-old daughter, 7-year-old boy, 3-year-old boy, and my 1-year-old boy. So definitely have my hands full, and it's been quite the adventure, to say the least.
All right. Thanks.
Awesome. Hi, church. My name is Greg Sacca. Most of you probably know my wife, Camille. She's very involved in the church. We've been coming to LC3 for almost 2 years now. I think August 2023, we started coming here. I have 3 daughters, 4, 2, and 8 months. I'm active duty Army mechanic.
All right. Well, thanks you guys for joining me, and thanks for being willing to come and have a conversation about being a dad. Depending on when you're listening to this, we're recording this the week of Father's Day. That's kind of the impetus that put this together was, hey, it's Father's Day. It'd be great to have a conversation with some dads. I guess as we talk about being a dad, I'd love to just start with your journey as, getting to this point. When you look back, who would you say influenced you the most?
Well, I would say certainly my dad, but I had a different kind of growing up. I left home at age 13 and went to a pastor-teacher training Lutheran school in Portland, Oregon, and lived in a dorm. So effectively, I left home at age 13, and it wasn't, I loved my parents, and
You didn't run away.
I didn't run away. Yeah, I left. I didn't run away. No, my brother had gone, and I just was excited to be able to go. So a whole dorm full of boys. So that was a lot of my influence all through high school. Of course, I was home during the summer. But to say that, in some of those really formative years, I wasn't around Dad.
Now, you were in Portland. Where was Mom and Dad?
North of Seattle.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So not just right down the street.
No.
Okay.
No. Certainly my dad was when I was around him. But then later on in life, when our children came along, we lived in Nebraska. And I would say Lars Graneth, Lars and Ingrid were very good friends of ours. And he was 30 years older than me and a significant influence in my life as a father figure.
Yeah, for sure.
I think I can relate to a degree. We talk about formative years, being younger and high school age. During that time period, my dad ended up kind of really becoming absent. I was fortunate because a high school junior ROTC instructor, Lieutenant Colonel retired Dwight Morse, ended up filling that role in many aspects, in the coaching, the mentoring side of things. He taught me how to shave, all these things as a young boy becoming a man. He was very influential in that regard.
Yeah. I'd say for me, I mean, obviously my dad, and I had a really great relationship with my grandfather. And my dad and my grandfather owned a trucking company when I was growing up. After school, weekends, I was always there, getting in the way, and helping them as much as I could. And then just before high school, they ended up selling the business. And with me growing up, that was all I knew. That was all I wanted to do, as a kid. And I was kind of lost. And my high school best friend, his dad, was a foreman at the General Motors dealership in town. And he took a chance on me and gave me a job at the dealership. I had no formal training as a mechanic or anything like that, other than, working on my car. He kind of set me up for where I am now in the automotive industry. And I learned a lot from him and just being around the shop and the other mechanics. So I'd say, that set me up.
And I love those stories because as parents, oftentimes they believe in us and they support us, partly because they have to. But when others do that, it is really special. Thanks for sharing that. So you were all sitting here, dads of multiple kids. Did you always know you wanted to be a dad one day?
Oh, yeah. I can't remember a time when I didn't want to be a dad. Now, I can't necessarily say that I attribute that to the example that my dad set, but I just felt like for some reason I had this innate, built-in, strong desire to have kids. I knew I would someday. And if something happened to my body where I couldn't have my own kids, there are plenty of kids still out there.
Oh, there are.
Who I would have been able to help in that regard too. So, absolutely.
I don't know that I thought much about being a dad. To be honest, I was doing my own thing, and even Vicki and I didn't know each other very long before we got married, and we thought we should get to know each other a little bit before we started a family. So we waited 5 years, and then Julie was born, and then a couple of years later, Becky was born. So that's not to say I wasn't interested in having kids. I mean, I'm delighted.
Yes.
But I just hadn't given it much thought.
Yeah, that's fair.
Growing up, I've never been against being a dad, but like you were kind of saying, I never really gave it a whole lot of thought or made plans or anything like that. But I'm actually the fifth, Gregory Frank Sacca, the fifth. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of built in from the start. But
we need the sixth.
Yeah, but as you heard, I have three daughters, so I'm kind of in the corner on that one. We'll see what happens going forward, but not doing so great so far.
As you say, we blew that too.
Yes.
The Weinz name ended in our family.
So you have these kind of different expectations or plans for being a dad, but I'd love to hear, so the first time you find out you're going to be a dad, like how did that happen? For me, Kelly and I were living in Spokane. I remember where we were. We were on a street, just taking a walk. We were about to cross the street, and she goes, "I'm pregnant." And I remember not responding as well. Like looking back, I'm like, "Oh man, could have responded so much." But I was just shocked. It wasn't what I was expecting. We'd been talking about lots of other things. So I'd love to hear, like, what was that like?
When we found out. We were in Alaska. I'd just gotten back from a deployment to Iraq, and I'd only been home maybe a month or so. And Camille told me, she's pregnant. And honestly, my first reaction, she probably thought I was just blowing her off or something. That was just a lot to process at the time. Because, it's one of those things where you never think you're ready. Yeah. It's a lot to take in. And then being in the military and we're in an apartment and you're kind of struggling on top of the world, so to speak. So it was just as a processing, I'm going to be a dad, all this extra responsibility. It took me a little bit to process, but I was very excited. The second and third time I found out I was going to be a dad were probably a little bit better reaction was. It was.
You're a veteran at that point.
Yeah.
Well, I would say I'm at a distinct disadvantage because you're trying to recall something from 50 years ago.
Yes.
But generally the feelings were scared, excited, thankful, but the exact reaction at the time, I don't remember.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah, I was really excited. All the announcements. My kid's mother, she's pretty phenomenal. She would always try to come up with unique and creative ways of making it a memorable moment. But for all 4 announcements, all of it I was so excited. I remember one instance where she told me that she was pregnant, but we were at a restaurant. And so she had put the test, right, in the menu. and so when I sat down to go then, look at the menu and I opened it up, I'm like, first I thought like, ew.
Yeah, like what is that?
And I'm looking like, then I get all excited. And it was such a great moment. And then I, gave her a hard time for the person who has to use that menu after me. So
They'll never know.
They'll never know. It was great.
That's great. I love all 3 of you had a little different response. Kelly and I, because we do a lot of conferences for different things, and one of the things we typically do at the end of the conference is Kelly will get up and she will tell the wives, she'll say, you've all made a list of this weekend, and your plan is to get in the car, and as soon as the door shut, immediately get going on that list with your husband. And Shelly says, your husbands need time to process, to think through things. And, and I always say, what she just said is that we're slow, which honestly isn't a lie, right?
No.
I mean, there is something about, it is a lot to take in.
One at a time. Like
Yes,
we can't do
it is a lot to
things at
take
once.
in,
Yeah.
but it's such a cool thing to take in.
Yeah.
So trying to think back, and you again are at a disadvantage, but I would love for you to just think like you've just graduated high school, you're getting ready to head off into the world, whatever that might have looked like for you in your 20-ish years. And I'm standing there with a microphone and I say, what does it mean to be a godly husband and a godly dad? What do you think your answer would have been?
I think for me, I feel like my response, certainly then, definitely different than what it would be now, in the sense of I didn't have a relationship with God at the time. And I would say my understanding of what a godly husband or a godly father would look like is a generally good-willed person, somebody who is nice to others, and maybe some of these other characteristics or attributes of somebody that I would consider to be a Christian based on my very immature, uninformed definition of a Christian.
I would say I was not home a lot from age 13 on, but as I said, I had a great relationship with my dad. I probably would have responded by saying, well, I raised my children in the church, and we would.
And your dad was a godly man.
Strong believer.
Okay, yeah.
Strong believer. Involved in everything at church. We were always at church, whatever the event was, and volunteering or on committees, whatever the case may be. He was very sincere about his faith. So that's the direction I would have gone. That's the direction that Vicki and I did go. Being at church, Bible studies, involved in leadership, volunteering, so forth.
Yeah, and I feel like if that were me, as best I can remember as well, I feel like it would have revolved around kind of what I saw growing up, which was my parents taking us to church. I did not have a great perspective of what goes on behind the scenes. Like, what does it mean behind the scenes to be that godly man?
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to just read you guys some quotes, and I'd just love to hear your response to them. I mentioned this earlier. I'm not looking for like anything profound, but just I'd love to hear maybe how these quotes hit you. First one is, I want to give my kids a great life, but I also don't want to miss their life while trying to provide it.
I'll touch on that one because that's kind of a season that I find myself in right now, trying to balance my, military life versus my personal life at home. Like you're saying, being there and being away, it's tough to balance, and the things you miss, you don't get the time back that you're not there. It's tough, but I just have to remind myself to not necessarily be the dad I want to be, but the dad that my daughters think I am. Like when I'm there, be there. And when I'm at work, focus on my work and just do the best I can.
Yeah, I wasn't military, but I traveled a lot during a lot of my career. And so I was away for 2 or 3 days at a time, sometimes a week. But it's really important to invest in our children. And when I was there, I really tried to do that. And certainly I wasn't gone like military who are deployed for months or years, my goodness, but really tried to plug into their school activities, their, sports, whatever it was they were involved in. But I have to say too, sports back then was not like sports now. And I want to be in everything, and we didn't battle that. So very thankful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think, like, generally speaking, if you ask men across the board, that's some version of that sentiment comes up a lot, that tension between those two.
Yes. So from the perspective of a single father, right, a divorced family and having a parenting plan, I think it presents unique challenges, right, with trying to provide a great life for my kids and not missing it. Though I feel like I'm already at a disadvantage because I'm going to be missing so much of it anyway. And so I think, to what you mentioned earlier, like, there are opportunities that you took advantage of, and I'm taking that as a reminder for myself too, such as school events. There are other activities. And so dads out there who are single and are faced with a similar challenge that I am, I want to encourage you to squeeze the opportunity for what it's worth as it's presented. School activities, summer vacations, stuff like that, I think is a great way to still be able to provide a great life to the degree that you can influence without letting these opportunities just sail by you.
When we interviewed some of the moms, one was a single mom, and one of the things that she talked about was how much of an impact some of the men in the church had on her kids' life. Have you found an opportunity for some of the women that are around your kids and their influence on your kids? How has that been?
Yes. When the kids come with me to LC3, there are some women in the congregation who speak into their lives and just chat with them. Those in the childcare ministry downstairs are a huge influence and such a blessing for anybody who serves in that ministry.
Yeah.
They probably don't even realize the level and degree of impact they really have. And so I'm very grateful for that entire team. Kind of segueing that a little bit into the husbands as well, and the other godly men in the church have also been helping and speaking into my kids' lives. This crazy idea in practice called play dates. They're a real thing.
Yeah.
And there's a lot there. And it's more than just for my kids. I kind of use the guise of, let's schedule a play date, but really I want to go hang out with this other godly man from the church. And I think there's so much to be captured and gained from those sort of interactions.
That's really good, because I do think we tend to culturally think of play dates as moms with their kids. So I'm really glad you brought that up. That's great. How about this one? There's no manual, and sometimes I just pray I'm not messing them up.
Well, I'll jump in on that. Amen to that. I look at our 2 daughters and their husbands, and there are manuals now. I mean, there are a lot of books that give direction. And maybe there were not long ago, but we didn't use them.
Definitely wasn't as accessible as it is now.
No.
For sure.
So we just did the best we thought we could do and asked for prayer and went forward.
And that one caught my eye because I feel like that also is how a lot of men can find themselves feeling. Like, even if there is a manual, I don't have the manual or I haven't read the manual, and I am just, Lord, please don't let me mess them up. How about this? I want to be emotionally available, but I didn't have that model growing up.
Yeah, I'll talk on that. Growing up, my dad worked, was the provider, protector. My mom raised the kids, took care of the house, and it was a great childhood. Never wanted for anything. But my dad, I don't want to say he was old school per se, but he wasn't one to just freely give out the compliments and I love yous and like have chats when he gets home from work type stuff. That was like, my mom was kind of the emotional support for us kids growing up. Not saying that it was a bad thing, but that's definitely, I've found with 3 daughters, is they are emotional. So to try to cater to that and not like just be like, oh, that's not a big deal, we'll get over it. Like that for them at their age, that's the end of the world. So trying to adjust my thought process and how I go about, parenting is definitely something that I'm getting used to.
Well, your wife said you're doing a great job of that, by the way.
Feel like it all the time.
One of the things she said, though, is that she loved that you're not intimidated by your three girls, that you're willing to. And as soon as I read that, I was like, yeah, I know what she means by that, because I know for plenty of dads, it can feel intimidating, especially to have three, and they're all girls, that can feel intimidating. Yeah. But although she did tell me the first time you held your first one, yep, you hadn't done that, and
white knuckles as big as my hands could be. Yeah, you talk about like messing them up or something. That was my nightmare was if I dropped. Yes,
oh yeah, right, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, they're an adult. Like, what's that knot in your head? Like, well, my dad dropped me. Yeah. Oh gosh.
You can ask my grandkids. I can be very emotional. But to deal with the emotions of my daughters as they were growing up, early on, they always wanted mommy, mommy, mommy. And in effect, I was raised with 110 brothers, the way I grew up.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's different. That's very different. So although I was, I think, sensitive, I didn't really know what to do a lot of times. So Vicky really took the lead and just did a phenomenal job with our daughter.
Yeah, and that's so good. I'm glad you said that, because I think when guys ask me for advice with their daughters, one of the first things I tell them is listen to your wife. Like, there were so many times that I would walk in and my wife, Kelly, would say, Krista needs some time with you. And I'm like, why? I learned to not ask why. Like, okay, I'll go spend some time with her, because I just so much just went over my head, but she was aware of all those things. So dads, I'm telling you, if you got daughters, like, man, trust your wife and take her cues when she says, hey, your daughter needs some time with you, or your daughter, whatever it is. One last quote: no one told me being a dad would make me cry so easily or pray so hard.
Yeah. So just a perfect example of that. My two oldest daughters are involved in Kid Strong, the shirt. It's a local gym that they go to learn life skills, and it's a little bit gymnastics and stuff like that. My oldest daughter, we tried her out in the next class up from where she's at. Currently, she's in a class where I'm on the floor with her. I can help her out, give her a little like that one-on-one. And the class she tried out today, she was on her own. She was out on the floor by herself. She had to figure everything out on her own. And to see the difference between when I'm out there to when she was out there today, like I was in the back leaning against the wall, and if any of the other parents were there, I probably looked like a blubbering mess because just that step of like, wow, she really is growing up, how smart she is and how she can adjust and adapt. It was awesome to see.
Way to go.
Yeah, nice job. Starting to try to wind down. I would love to hear you guys. Funniest parenting moment, most embarrassing parenting moment, biggest fail as a parent, one thing you'd do differently if you had it to do all over again. So comment on any one of those that maybe jumps to the top and you go, oh, this one sticks out.
Biggest parenting fail, I would say so far for me, my middle daughter, Violet, was probably...
Now, did I hear one of your daughters is a little bit more like you?
Gwen, okay. The oldest.
The oldest,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's scary a lot of times. But Violet, our middle girl, she's definitely more of the adventurous one, and she's always been from a young age. She used to like hanging out on our bed when she first was learning how to crawl and like roll over and stuff. This one time I was in charge. She was hanging out on the bed, just doing her thing, and I was, restocking her diapers, and she all of a sudden had rolled over and started crawling, and I was like, oh, I can get her, and she took off and got to the edge of the bed before I could grab her and starfished off the bed, and I just see hands and feet fall onto the floor, and I was like, oh, like I was devastated, and she was crying and everything. She calls mom, and mom comes over. She's like, oh, it's okay. And then after Camille had calmed her down, Camille's calming me down because I'm a mess. And yeah, so far, that's my biggest.
All right. Well, it's a tough one, but it's okay if that's your biggest failure. I like that. You were going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say this is post raising the kids, but so it happened. Julie, oh, I shouldn't mention Julie, our daughter. Yeah, no, it's Julie. She was so strong-willed, just strong-willed. We always said to each other, if we can just channel this in the right direction, she's going to make a great adult. But she was strong-willed. So one night, she got sent up to her room with a bowl of chili and was up there quite a while. And then finally we went up and she had eaten her chili. And we found out years later that what she had actually done was dump the chili out the window onto the garden below. She never ate the chili. And who knows how many other things that, that our kids do that we think we might have won. We didn't even come close.
Well, I can speak from personal experience. She has channeled that all in the right direction and is wonderful. Yeah. Wonderful adult, amazing adult. Yes, for sure.
I think for me, one of the moments that was like the scariest for me as a parent and was probably one of the funniest for my wife at the time was when with my first child, my daughter, we were crib training, right? Getting her away from the bedroom and into her own room and getting her used to that, right? Oh man, that first night, I just hear her crying. I was up for hours.
Yeah,
just bawling.
I can relate, yeah.
Just bawling because I felt like I was abandoning her, like I'm a failure, like she's crying, and my wife is just like, you're a bigger baby than she is, like she's gonna be fine, it's okay, babies cry. But with the first child, everything is a first, right?
Yep.
And
you just don't know.
Everything is so hypercharged, and
yes.
And then I would say for the biggest failure, that one came straight to my mind automatically. What that is, I failed to be a father according to how God calls me to be a father, right? And the way the world wants me to be a father is nothing when you don't have the standards that God has set forth, And if I can go back knowing what I know now, trying to keep my emotions in check, man, I wish I would have started so much sooner. But I have today.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you being so open about your journey, and because I say this often, God's the God of another chance. All of us, if we're honest, when we look back, there's places that we just dropped the ball, didn't do something as well as we could have, and we don't get to do it again, but we get to look forward and say, okay, but here's what I can do now. And which is a great segue, kind of as we really try to wrap this up. I'd love just to hear maybe a nugget, a piece of advice as you look back and think of those things that you just were talking about. If I had to do all over again, here's something I've learned.
For me, just be present. When you are home, that's where you need to be. Work can wait. Somebody else can figure it out. The other thing that comes to mind is your kids only have one dad. Yeah, they can be stepdads and other father figures, but they'll never have what you can bring to the table. So just be there, embrace that. Everywhere else in life, irreplaceable. At work, somebody else can, your job. There's always other stuff going on in the world, but you're your kid's world. So
that's good.
Yeah, remember that.
That's good.
I'm going to kind of jump on that one too, because I talked about that earlier, about spending time with our children. I had a job where I ran my own schedule. So I missed almost no events during junior high, grade school, junior high, high school, because I'd schedule them even in college. And I'd be there, and at a track meet or a cross-country meet, there'd be 3 dads there and 50 moms. And a lot of the dads couldn't be there. I was just thankful that I could be, and I think I sure showed my support for my girls more in that way than I did in the conversations, the emotional kinds of guidance and so forth, just to be there. So that would be my recommendation. Whatever works in your schedule, be there for your kids. because they'll appreciate it.
I'm going to get the quote wrong, but what is it? 90% of success is showing up. Certainly in that context, that's great.
I think if I were to be giving advice to maybe like a young father, right, somebody who's getting into the fatherhood adventure, would be first and foremost to check themselves and to make sure that they have a right relationship with God. And Pastor Tom did a great job preaching on a similar topic the other day when it came to how we hold other people to certain standards, right? We can't necessarily hold somebody who's not a believer against standards that God sets forth. But if you're going to walk and talk and say that you're a Christian, well, your behavior needs to reflect that. And so I think if you are in right relationship with the Lord, that's the first step when it comes to raising kids. And then next to that is do not undervalue the helper that God has blessed you with as a father, right? We were talking about it earlier, coming home, right? You're coming home, we're coming home from work, and we get there and we think, hey, I'm off work and I'm finally home, right? But in my case, and maybe many of you out there have wives who are mothers full-time at home. Well, they didn't come home from work. They're still working, and they do so much behind the scenes. And so use that as an opportunity to show your kids what loving your wife, their mother, should look like. I would say those are two big pieces of advice that I would offer.
I love that. That's really great advice. Let me just end with one final question that Joe set up for us. Any wisdom for any wives that are listening? What's something like your wife did to help you be a better dad?
One of the things that we learned early on in our marriage with children was don't contest a decision that's been made in front of the kids. Let's support each other. And if we have issues with that, we can talk about it later. But I've felt like Vicki has always had my back when it comes to dealing with our children and our grandchildren now. And that's so important to feel supported in how you are interacting with other family members.
For me, the main thing is just, as a newer dad, just her reassurance that I'm my own biggest critic, and I will cut myself down if I feel like I'm messing up. So for her just to be there and just like pull me aside and be like, hey, calm down, you're doing great, just keep doing what you're doing, and just like centers me, and then, I can continue being the dad that I want to be. And then just appreciation, because there's a lot that us dads have going on that, everybody else doesn't know about. And the same thing goes for moms. Like, they have their own battle, so to speak, that they're dealing with. A little bit of reassurance and some gratitude goes a long way.
Yeah. I love that. I guess I would piggyback off of that, because I feel for me, that was one of the things that Kelly did early on that was huge. And that was affirming, because the truth was Kelly had watched kids her whole life, and she was just great with kids right from the start. And so she could change a diaper with her eyes closed, and meanwhile I'm like all thumbs, and it would have been easy for like, let me do it, but she didn't. She was like, you got this, and thankfully, because of that, you eventually do get it, and then you're able to do it, and not do it still quite as well, but able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, you guys, again, I just want to say thanks for joining me, and thanks for being dads and for stepping into that role. I know in this cultural moment we're in, it can be tricky to be a dad and be a godly dad, trying to raise our kids to be followers of Jesus. And dads out there, I would just say, if you find yourself in a place where you're feeling like you need support or need help, please let us know and be on the lookout. We have resources that come through all the time in terms of like mini courses and those kinds of things, but don't go this battle alone without reaching out and asking for help. And that goes for you and your wife. We want to be a support to families. So thanks for joining us, and thanks again, guys, for joining me, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for connection, community, and relationship here on LC3 Family Talk. See you next time.